we get closer to the local elections on the 1st of November, many of us mulling our choices. Do we jump to another more promising party? Well, of course, there's also the choice of an independent candidate. And former DA leader Mmusi Maimane is championing the role of the independent candidate through his One South Africa platform, and he joins us now. Mr. Maimane, thank you so much for joining us. I know that today you unveiled, unveiled is probably the wrong word, you introduced over 250 independent candidates. And that is my understanding from what Mangoba Mkudu, our reporter, told me earlier, is that there's about over 1,700 independent candidates in this coming election, which is a 36% increase over previous local elections. Are we seeing a rising trend of independent candidates?
Good evening, Celia, and good evening to fellow South Africans. I think the first and most crucial thing is that I think there's an increasing dissatisfaction with political parties. I think all of us are sitting around going, our streets are not being fixed, our lights are not on, water isn't flowing, and therefore citizens are considering their options. The second thing is, as part of One South Africa, we've really pushed that actually our democratic principle must be power to the people. So what we then did today is actually work with a number of associations across various towns, of which Mmusi is but one, where we've been able to put associations that can stand. And I think citizens are responding positively. I think people want power back. And I think people realize that what 2020 and 2021 has been is politicians getting richer, some of them illegally and some of them through corrupt means, where citizens are getting poorer and unemployed and losing loved ones through COVID. So I think it's a shift in change and a desire to take control of their communities and their towns in the best way they can.
It's interesting that you mention Mgijima municipality. We've just been chatting to Aviwu Mtila, who's there because of this massive scandal around the sports facility. Local contractors saying it's worth maybe a fifth of what was paid, if that. And Ken Clark is one of the independent candidates. He's a well-known businessman in the area. We're going to be chatting to him later in the show. So talk to me about that as an example of disgruntlement over service delivery. Looks like a very clear case in point, though it must be said the municipality is defending itself. But Ken Clark, as I understand, is someone who's been saying for many years there's a problem here.
Well, I think the stadium is the epitome of the problem. The truth of the matter is that Ken Clark is a very established businessman there. Their business provides soft drinks, and the difficulty is that they're reliant on water. They employ over 1,000 people. When a municipality fails to provide them with water, it's 1,000 jobs. It's as straightforward as that. And in truth, this is an indicator to us that you can be attractive through this model that we've implemented of a diversity of skills. You can bring business people, you can bring civic society leaders, you can bring doctorates. And on our list of candidates, I, having come from established political parties, have seen that these are not politicians, these are not factional people. These are people who are committed to serving their communities. And therefore, someone like Ken Clark, to be the mayoral candidate of Mgijima, would best serve the municipality in that way, having run a successful business. And we've given him the training, the tools to ensure that he can effectively turn around the municipality. Gives me the fresh breath, fresh air that allows us for change to happen.
Do you think that independent candidates are better suited to working in coalitions because they don't have to toe the party line? Because a lot of pundits are saying we are heading for more and more coalitions.
Yeah, undeniably. And I think one of the things that today, as we unveiled the pledge, is that actually local government isn't about ideology. We're not there to debate. So you don't even need to coalesce around ideology. You don't need to coalesce around, which I've found in many times, around race or around region or about old political affiliations. You literally this time are in fact negotiating for the best set of conditions for the citizens you serve. And by the way, coalitions actually are continuous negotiations. It's not just in the election of the mayor. It's also about what kind of budget you pass. Suddenly you bring an independent who can say, our street, our community is desirous of the fact that potholes must be fixed or we need new infrastructure. Suddenly they can come into that space knowing that they're negotiating on behalf of their community, rather than just simply say the party would desire to work with these people because of deals done elsewhere.
How much power will they ultimately have, though? Because, and correct me if I'm wrong, but because we've got a mixed system, we've got the independent candidates that can stand for the individual wards, but we've also got a portion of the council that is proportional representation, and that's where these party lists come in. The independent candidates are not members of any party, so they can't ever get that part of the council. Therefore, isn't their power ultimately limited?
No, that's incorrect, Sally. We had to face up to that challenge, and we said, how best can we resolve it? So in Mkichima, which is a great example of a municipality, we've got the independent movement, or the independence movement. And what they've done is establish themselves as with a list of independent candidates, but on the ballot, you'll be able to find the independents so that you can vote, one, for the ward candidate, and two, in a proportional manner, for one of the independents to sit on there. What you then do, ultimately, is that on your proportional representative list, it sits in the local municipality, it is attractive to skills that come from the community, and you can sponsor the votes to ensure that ultimately those people are accountable to the community. So we've worked out a model. That's why we've gone for the term in law, which is the Section 15A of the municipal system, of the Electoral Act, to ensure that these candidates can be able to benefit from both. And I think what we've been able to do demonstrates in an easier model, like an Uber. You don't have to own the cars or the drivers. You simply have to make sure that those people adhere to a set of standards which we've set nationally, train them, and then we can ensure that those associations represent the residents in their communities.
I have to ask you about, and this speaks, I think, in many ways to party politics. You, of course, are the former leader of the Democratic Alliance. A big scandal, lots of mudslinging over their election posters in KwaZulu-Natal, which basically say the ANC called you racists, we call you heroes. What do you make of that?
I think, firstly, it's despicable. I think it is regressive. I think for an organization that has spent much of its time, you know, when I was there, we fought hard for one South Africa for all, a reconciled nation, a nation that works together. To now, a number of years later, to be running a campaign that is racially divisive, that focuses South Africans on us versus them, and ultimately moving every electoral issue. This is a local government issue. It's a local government election. Moving away from that entirely is a true demonstration that the party simply does not have a message for local government. It simply cannot tell the people what it's going to do for them. And instead, it focuses on the ANC and uses the race card, the very thing that this country and they have suffered from over a long period of time, is the very tool not they're resorting to. I find it unimaginative, despicable, and actually anti the reconciliation project of this country. And what's sad is that the long-term trajectory of this issue demonstrates actually why the divergent visions we held in the DA, where others were seeking these politics of division, while we were seeking to build a South Africa that works for all, realizing that however difficult our circumstances are, we are better off working together to resolve the issues that occur in our municipalities.
Well, thank you so much for chatting to us this evening. It's going to be really fascinating to see how the independent candidates do come November 1st. Mmusi Maimane, thank you very much, leader of the One South Africa movement. Of course, they're supporting independent candidates in the coming local elections.